Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back for the next session. Before the closing of the first session, I was discussing the recovery testing, and we discussed that we have one way to measure the recovery. The mean time between failure is equal to mean time to failure plus mean time to repair. And we have another way to measure reliability using defects per kilo line of code or faults per kilo line of code or faults per function point. One of my paper was published in IET software. I want to show you. It was published in 2012 in IET software that there are three case studies, and for release 1 to release 4 are compared. Case 1 is small project, small size project. Case 2, medium size project. Case 3, large size project. And fault rate per kilo line of code for case 1 to case 2, case 3, release 1 to release 4. As you can see, with the upcoming release, faults are decreasing. Like for case 1, 2.84 fault rate per kilo line of code is 2.84 to 2.44, 2.41, and for the fourth is 1.97. That means reliability of the software is improving release by release. And case 2, 3.64 fault rate per kilo line of code. Release 2, 3.36, release 3, 3.22, release 4, 2.16, average 3.09. Case 3, 4.06, 3.93 for release 2, release 3, 3.85, release 4, 3.04, average 3.72. And one existing case study is compared. The original one for small scale projects, release 1, 2.19, 2.10, 2.04, and 8.70 for the fourth release, its average is 3.75. So reliability of the system by using the proposed model I proposed is improved, is better than the existing case study of XP. So that's another way to estimate the reliability. Then we have security testing. Tester will try to attack the system by all means, such as to develop a program to crack the security, alter the data, and hack the server. We have categories of attacks. How many categories of attacks we have? MS Sadiq. Abdul Latif Garmullah. Abdullah Khalid. Usam Khizar. Muhammad Jasim. Muhammad Ahmed. Fasi Yusuf. Muhammad Mabrek. Shakir. Sultan. Anyone, open. snooping, spoofing, modification. We have three categories of attacks. We have direct attack, passive, and active. Direct, passive, and active, there are three categories of attacks. Any idea about direct attack? Raid Abdullah? Ghazi Muhammad? Muhammad Mabreek? Majid Manawar? Shakir? Sultan? Anyone? Open. In the direct attack, hacker attacks the system as an admin with the administrative power, administrative authority, privileges. Hacker, the attacker, attacks the system as an administrator with the authority, with the privileges, as privileges. With the privileges of system administrator. System administrator. So he steals the username password of the administrator and he attacks the system and he can do any damage. For example, removing the user's names, passwords, changing the passwords, steal the data, copy the data as he likes. This is called direct attack. And we have passive. Attack. Abdullah Ali. What is the difference between passive and active? Shakir. Ahmad Adil. Muhammad Marai. Muhammad Ahmad. Ghazi. Open. Anyone can answer. Passive and direct active. Passive active we can understand by smoking. We have active smoker and we have passive smoker. Just to give you an idea, passive smoker. Abdullah Ali, what is the difference between active smoker and passive smoker? Ali Ali, Ahmed Siddiq, Usama Ali. Active smoker who is actually smoking, who is doing the smoking or he is inhaling the cigarette or cigar or pipe, whereas passive is the family members or colleagues or friends who are not smokers but they are also smoking because of the smoke in the environment, in the air, in hawa. They are passive smokers, they are not smoking, but because of the active smoker, they are also smoking because of that guy. Problem child. Anyhow, passive attack is like copying the data, stealing the data. Hacker or attacker install such software that the data, yes, the data he is copying, like user is using his system. Whenever he will send some file to customers or to upper management or his colleague, one copy will go to the hacker, or he can steal the data from the server. Like Sony company, it was attacked by Korean hackers. They steal their future projects. Russian hackers, they steal Americans' ideas about the CIA ideas or FBI ideas, NASA ideas about the future technologies. That is passive attack. Like when you are calling someone and hacker can listen all the discussion. It was very popular when you have analog lines. Now you have digital lines. In the analog lines, if telephone line, landline is connected, the wire is connected with some other one, some other customer, he can listen all the discussion. Or like you called any company, there is a receptionist, the front desk guy, or that guy, male or female, he or she can listen all the discussion if he or she wants, because she transfer the line to the guy you want to discuss your problem or you want to chat with another guy. So because she is the has the main control, from the control she is transferring your line to the that guy intercom where you want to call, you want to connect. This is passive, just listening, copying. Whereas active, the hacker or attacker can change the data. Like you have an agent to buy the shares of stock market. Like you are investor and you ask the agent broker to buy the shares of Almarai company or Aramco or Saudi Airline or Nehdi or Nadik. The attacker, changed this data and changed to some unknown company. So you have wrong information, you change the information. It's called intruding. He intrudes the information, change the information. I suffered this attack that during the national holiday of Saudi Arabia, there was an offer from the McDonald's, and it was fake website, and I ordered 3 burgers of 18 real or 16 real something, and hacker changed this information to 1490 real, almost 1500 real. So that is active attack. Steal the credit card information and change. You withdraw money 10,000 real over the internet, you transfer, it changed to 25,000 real or 50,000 real. That is called active attack. Any question regarding the categories of attacks? Then you have types of attacks. How many types of attacks we have? One of the student answered spoofing, modification, denial of service. It is close. Ali, Majid Munawwar, Ghazi Muhammad, Usam Khizar. We have DOS. We have virus. We have worm. There are three types of attacks. DOS. And now we have DDoS. Raid Abdullah, what is DOS or DDoS? Muhammad Marai. Fasi Yusuf. Abdul Latif Garmullah. DOS is denial of service. Yes, denial of service. And now we have very popular distributed DDoS. Distributed denial of service. What is denial of service? How to define? Ahmad Adil, Muhammad Jasim, Muhammad Mabrek, anyone open? Very good. In denial of service, attacker sends so many requests that server cannot respond. The server can respond like 10 requests per second, and hacker is attacking with 100 requests per second. If server can respond 100 requests per second, hacker is sending 500 requests or 1000 requests per second. Objective is to damage the machine. Hard disk is burned. I gave you an example of a virus, Stuxnet, damage the nuclear power plant of Iran. In the initial lectures at the beginning of the semester, yeah, Stuxnet was designed to act as DOS virus worm. In the DOS, like we have atomic machines and they have rotors like motors to break the atoms of uranium or plutonium to make atom bomb. If machine can rotate at a speed of like 10 1000 revolutions or 10,000 revolutions per second, it's in frequency hertz, 10,000 hertz, it increased to 20,000, 30,000 till machine is damaged. So around 2000, each machine is very expensive. Machines of Iran power plant, nuclear power plant were damaged because of Stuxnet, because it was increasing the speed of the rotor like motor till parts collides with each other, because at such a high speed they will start hitting each other. So that's the denial of service. And for the server we have hard disk. So denial of service burn the hard disk. Hard disk is physically broken. Aramco has attacked by a virus. Its name was Shamoon. Around 30,000 computers of Aramco, their hard disks were physically damaged by this virus. It has denial of service. So hard disk will rotate at such a high speed that it will burn. That is denial of service, DOS, or distributed denial of service. Then we have virus and worm. What is the difference between virus and worm? Ali, Sultan, Muhammad Jasim, Fasi, Ghazi, Abdul Latif Garmullah. Open, anyone. The difference between virus and worm. Virus okay, virus must be triggered by the activation of their host. Yes, virus always attach itself to another software. Virus always attached with another software. It is hidden. Like audio clip, video clip, you download it from some software from the internet or some image, virus is there. Or you have free components available over the internet and you need that component to develop an application. You are working in a software company. Very good. Ghazi is absolutely correct. So triggered, and You download that component and there is a virus inside. As you download, it start working. Like Stuxnet was a virus as well. It hides inside the RAM. Normally, viruses are installed on the hard disk. So you scan the hard disk, you can detect. But it loads itself in the RAM. If you scan the hard disk, it's not there. So it is triggered by the host and sending all the information of the machines it's connected. So around 100,000 machines were affected by Stuxnet all over the world. And it checked that this machine is connected to some plant or not. If it is connected to some plant, it's activated. Otherwise, it kept silent, sleep. It doesn't activate, doesn't trigger. But if this machine is connected to some plant, it triggers and starts sending all information of that machine to the host. Sinkhole. Once it is identified by Symantec company, the sister company of Norton Antivirus, the server, which the host which was triggering, it was disconnected. And then Symantec company connect this virus to their server as a host, and they notice around 100,000 machines all over the world were affected by this Stuxnet. Shamoon was also a virus. It was very popular in early 2000, but this Stuxnet was around 2011. This attack was there on the nuclear power plant of Iran. There was one virus, Trojan horse, also very popular. Trojan horse. You have watched the movie Troy, Hollywood movie Troy. In the Troy, we have Greek and the Romans. So Greek warriors hid inside. They hide themselves inside a horse outside of the Troy, and Romans took that horse into the castle in the Troy. They thought it's a reward from their god as a victory reward. And in the night, the warriors came out of the Trojan horse and they opened the gates of Troy, and Romans were defeated from the Greek army came inside the Troy and they won the war. So this Trojan horse is also a virus. And there was one virus, it was very popular. Its name was I Love You. I love you. A message comes, like for boys, message is coming from the girls, and girls are receiving messages from the boys, I love you. As you open this message, virus is there. And there was one virus, its name is Nimda. Nimda, when you copy the data or you make a backup, only folders are copied and they are empty without files. I was one of the victims of Nimda. I was working in one of the universities in Pakistan and I made a backup of my data from my system on CD drive, and I joined the new university, and once my computer is allocated to me, I try to copy the data from CD to the hard disk. When I opened the folders, they were empty. Only folders were there without files. So Nimda was also an example of virus. worm, it doesn't need to attach itself malicious program that can spread over the network by itself. Like Stuxnet was also a worm. It was denial of service attack, virus attack, worm, all were there. Nimda has a virus version and worm version. Hacker hacks, he will run this program on one of the machines. All the network will be affected. Like there is a worm, its name is Netlog. It generates extra network traffic to make network jam. And then system administrator will notice that this system is generating extra network traffic. And then he will shut down that machine to close the traffic. So that's a few examples of Nimda, Netlog, Stuxnet. So these are all there under the security testing. We test. Like I remember, I was in Malaysia and they have a bank, its name is Maybank. Like SNB, Malaysian bank. They have a competition. They announced in the newspaper to check their security testing, that the guy who will hack our server, attack our server, will give him reward of 100,000 Malaysian ringgit. So one guy hacked their server and they hired him as a network administrator. Now you will provide the security and reward as well. NASA, FBI, CIA, they also have competition. They invite the university students like Stanford, like Cambridge, like MIT to hack their servers, to check the loopholes and to protect their systems. So that is the job of security testing. Any question? Then you have stress testing, that how much the load the system can bear, abnormal conditions, interrupts. Like I gave you example of Load Runner by HP. Input data management, memory consumption, abnormal resources in terms of quantity, frequency of volume. So that's the stress testing. Load testing. Then you have performance testing. System meet the performance in terms of response time. We compare two systems to find which one is better than the other in terms of performance. And then we try to estimate which part of the system or workload caused the system to perform badly, and response time is acceptable or not. Then what are the advantages of automated testing? We have NUnit, JUnit, PHP unit, fitness for integration and system testing, NCover, code coverage tool, JBlanket. Accuracy and completeness of performance, accuracy of result log and summary reports, comprehensive information regarding the test cases, few manpower, less efforts, less time, performance in terms of complete regression tests, smoke tests. So manual testing, it's not possible. Disadvantages: heavy investment in terms of packages if you need, like for example NCover, the licensing cost, load runner licensing cost. So investment is required, manpower is required to prepare test case. Like we have pair programming, so two persons work on one machine in Agile XP. One will prepare the test cases, other will is writing the code, and he will test. So you have extra person effort resources you allocate with each team. So each programmer has one tester sitting with him. Each pair has one person for the to perform test. So you have extra resources with each programmer. So that are the few. And if pair are not synchronized, then you have negative impact on the project, delay, low productivity. Main types of acceptance test: we have alpha and the beta. What is the difference, Raid Abdullah? Sultan, Usama Ali, Shakir, Ghazi, Muhammad Mabrek. Very good. Alpha is called control testing. But what is the difference? Anyone? Very good. In the alpha, you call the customer at the software company side to test in front of the team. That is the reason it is called control testing. So you have controlled scenario. You don't allow the user to enter some invalid input to generate error, to produce error. So you are there to guide the user. Don't try anything abnormal, invalid, like name is there. He's trying to enter number there. You say, what are you doing? Ishaza. There is a mobile number and he's trying to enter ABC there. Ishaza, what are you doing? No, no, no. It's not done by the tester. It is done by the customer. But customer is present within the company. Few users from each level of management, like you have top management, middle management, lower management. Few users from each level will come to the software company side to test at the software company side. This is called alpha, and it is done at the software company side. At the software company side by the end users. by the users of the customer. But team is present to control the environment. That is the reason it's called control testing or contrived testing, lab testing. That is another name. Lab testing, control testing, or contrived testing, or alpha in general. Lab, controlled, contrived, or alpha. But it is done at the software company side. Beta. In the beta, you release, you deploy software. The software is deployed at the customer side to test freely. It is also called uncontrolled testing, uncontrolled. Or uncontrived. Real-time testing. You are not there as a team member to guide the user. He can test as he likes. Users can test as they like freely to enter invalid input, maximum, minimum, plus, minus, validation, invalid inputs, name, enter number, number is there, enter character, keeping some form, there is a form and there is some field, keeping some fields empty, like some information don't fill to see what happened. So that is the beta. No. Alpha is done first at the software company side, then you will call for the beta. Beta is after the alpha. First alpha, then beta. Once customer approves alpha, then you deploy at the customer side for the beta. Like Microsoft released beta version. Microsoft released beta version. But before beta, Microsoft had already done alpha from top companies, top customers at their site in the lab. Then once it's approved in the alpha, then you release the beta version for the customers. You deploy at the customer site to test it freely as they like, uncontrolled environment. You are not present there to guide the user how to test the system, what are the scenarios. They can test as they like, to test, to fail, to identify maximum number of defects, to identify maximum number of defects. Maximum number of defects or faults. Because after the approval of beta, customer has to release the money. Customer has to release the money. Falus. Once he released the money and your accounts department confirmed that this amount is transferred to your software company's account, then you publish the final version. Clear? Or any question? Great. So alpha side, customers try out the new software package at the developer side. Beta testing, a selected group of users, customer receives an advanced version of the software to be installed in their site and report defects, not errors. Because customer will submit you a defects report after the beta. And this is cycle continuous. Alpha, beta, you have done the maintenance. This alpha beta testing cycle will repeat till customer approve the beta, and then he will release the money. As he will release the money, you will publish the final version, then next release. Advantages of beta: identification of unexpected errors, a wider population of errors. Actually, it's defects, not errors. Defects or faults. Low cost. Disadvantages: a lack of systematic testing, low quality defect report if customer does not or user did not test it properly, difficult to reproduce the test environment, much effort is required to examine defect reports. If you have more defects, if like agile, you have few defects, easy to fix them. Because agile style is different than the traditional development. In the agile, you ask the customer, what is your most important requirement? Okay, the first most important. Then you develop that code, test, release. Then next most important requirement. Second most. Then third most. So you are taking requirement stories only one by one or one or two. So easy to code, easy to test, easy to maintain, easy to release. Customer may ask you to deliver 3 or 4 sprints as one increment. It's up to the customer. But each release is a working version as per the Agile manifesto that customer can use it. But traditional, if you have large size code, 40,000 lines, 100,000 lines, then it's difficult, like the case of Microsoft Vista. There are so much defects that Microsoft was not able to fix them, and it was not stable, it was not reliable, and failed. Second example of Netscape communicator browser. Because the size was large, difficult to code, difficult to test, complexity high, more defects, failed to fix them. Same Nokia. The case of Symbian operating system. Large size, more functionality, difficult to code, difficult to test, complexity high, more defects, failed. So that is the reason Agile is very popular, because you are taking few requirements, 1, 2, and then next, second most important, third most important, fourth most important. Easy, less code, complexity low, easy to test, easy to maintain, and easy to release. You have unit testing tools. During the discussion, these are few examples of unit testing some tools. Like I gave you example of N unit, J unit, PHP unit. So these are the few testing tools. J unit for Java, N unit for, so junit.org you can download freely, or that means it has junit.org or .NET N unit .org free downloadable, or .NET. So we have X unit also there, fitness, integration and system testing. It's not fitness bodybuilding club that you find throughout Saudi Arabia. It is FITNESSE, fitness.org. It's also free downloadable, and these all tools are for test-driven development, TDD environment of Agile, XP practices, one of the XP practices, test-driven development, acceptance, integration, and system testing. This is the end of this chapter. Let me show you some of the packages for N unit. So you have C# console application to add two numbers. Open a new project in Visual Studio, select C# console, name it like RISCalc, select the location where you want, press OK, add a new class to define the method, name it, write your function and test it. Like for example, you have namespace and namespace RISCalc, class calcheck, public int add int A, int B, return A plus B. Right click on the solution or class calcheck and pop-up window will come. Select the menu and you get package for solutions. Browse, download and install N unit and click on the project and class to link N unit with Visual Studio.NET. Click on the calcheck tab to return to your program. Right click on calcheck class on window to add new class and named it calcheck test. Write text fixture after the curly bracket of your solution. As you can see here, namespace RISCalc text fixture. Test case, public void add calcheck math new calcheck. Assert that R equal 20. So 10 plus 10 should be 20. Output, expected output. Left click on the mouse over the button and select using NUnit.framework to include. And then write test case after the curly bracket to class check test. Write your method to test the data and run it. This is the check calc.cs and this is the calc check test. text fixture, test case. Click on the test menu and select run and all tests. Run. Test pass. Now I have subtraction as well, another method, another function. Now instead of to check invalid 20, instead of 20 I put 30. 20 minus 10, the expected output is 30. So it will show me test pass, one test fail. Because for sum add it pass, for subtraction it failed. That is for n unit. Now I will go for j unit. I will send you the files after this lecture, inshallah. You have NetBeans. Open a new project in the NetBeans and add and subtract two numbers. So you have this interface, Java application. Click on the next, name it Java application. Hello Calc name. Press finish button. Write your method in the class Hello Calc. Okay, public static int A, int B, return A plus B. Click on the tools menu here and select create test. This screen will come. So you have this all modifiers. Press OK and select the JUnit version like JUnit 4X. Right click using a mouse, select the project Hello Calc. In the layout window, you can see the subfolder now. Test library. Right click on the folder name library and select add library to add the JUnit jar file to the Hello Calc. And if JUnit is not installed, then install it. Add library, JUnit 4, add library button. Now you have this public hello test, public void test add, public void test add assert equals 4 hello calc 2 comma 2 expected output 4. So it will run the test. It will show you here 100% pass. Now we have subtract method, public static int sub int A int B, return A minus B. Now you have test sub, same procedure repeated, 4 8 4 expected output 4. Run it. Now your test pass, test subtract, test main, test add. This is the code hello calc. This is hello calc test. Assert equals this for JUnit. Now fitness. How to use fitness? Download the fitness from the fitness.org. To install it, we go to the command line and type java jar fitness standalone.jar. It will install. But if the port is used, we can type java jar fitness standalone 1.jar p. We can select the port like 5500. Now we open the browser and type localhost.port number, and we'll see this fitness page on the wiki server. Welcome to the fitness. To go to the testing page, we type the URL http localhost port number fitness.mytestedit. Find the path for the class you want to test. Path set here. Slim server. We are going to import the package that contains the class we want to test. Import fit. Define test system slim. Then we write the class name FITT. We write the method we want to test with the parameter fit first, second, sum 10, 12, 22. Import fit 10, 12, 22. Then go to tools, and then in properties select test and click save. Click on the test. It will show if your test failed or passed, as you can see here. Test pages 1, right, variable defined, class path. This is the code for you. Any question? I will send you the files today, inshallah, after the lecture. Now I am starting the chapter number 4. Software configuration management. This is the agenda. There is a quote. I am beginning with a quote. About 5000 BC, by one of the philosophers, there is nothing permanent except change. Change is always there. Everything is changing. In Agile, we have a term, it's called agility. From where Agile term is taken. What is the meaning of agility? MS Sadiq? Shakir? Ghazi? Majid? Garamullah? Usama, Raed, Muhammad Mubarak, Muhammad Marai, okay, anyone. Ability to move quickly and easily, more flexible, creating and implementing solutions and products by reacting rapidly to current events and proactivity to what is anticipated in for the future. Very good. Respond to changes quickly and efficiently without compromising quality. Respond to changes quickly and efficiently without compromising the quality. We think, as a general opinion in the public, in the people, if you do something fast in a hurry, that means shaitan path. You will do more mistakes. This is the common understanding, normal understanding of common people. But Agile said that respond to changes quickly and efficiently without compromising the quality of software. There is one courier service, its also name is agility. Deliver quickly, like DHL. So we have changes. What are the changes on which team has to react quickly and efficiently? Most importantly, Shakir, Ahmed Adil, Saad Ghalib, Sultan, Ali, Ali, Majid Munawar, Muhammad Marai, Muhammad Jasim. Okay, open. Anyone. The most importantly are the requirements. Adapt, change quickly. If customer is changing requirements, welcome to the requirements at any stage of the project. Because many companies failed that they did not respond to the requirements quickly. I remember the case of one of the companies, American-based company. Its name is TriSoft. Half team in America, half team in Pakistan. And one of the stakeholders, the investors, he asked the management, we are only targeting American market. We are not targeting Pakistani market, and especially government departments are much attractive sector, is an important productive sector where a lot of money is there. Why not we target Pakistani government department, Hakuma departments? The project manager tried, and the company wins a project from one of the government departments to automate the data from manual files to electronic files, e-files, and collected the requirements and disappear, and thought it's a Pakistani market, Pakistani Hukuma, their requirements will not change. The customer's requirements will not change. After 6 months or few months, they went to the customer side for alpha and beta. They call the customer Customer said, thank you very much. Our requirements are changed. We don't need. Now they beg the customer, please give us some extra time to change as per the new requirements. Because requirements are continuously changing. Why the requirements are continuously changing? Ahmed Siddiq, what do you think? Why requirements are continuously changing? Ahmed Adil, Badr Saad, Bandar Saad, sorry, Raid Abdullah, Saad Ghalib, Abdullah Ali, Usam Khizar. Yes, because of business needs are changing. Any other reason? Sometimes you increase the business, sometimes you downsize the business. Any other reason? Technology change, very good. Technology change. Productivity is decreasing. Time consuming, cost consuming processes, automate their processes. So requirements are changing due to market needs or competitor. They introduce something new and you have to meet the competitor. So you have to change the requirements. User needs are continuously changing. It's normal. And if you are at the testing level of release, if customer change the requirements, don't say no to the customer. That we will see in the next version, next release. Welcome requirements at any stage of the project. Welcome requirements at any stage of the project. It's one of the guidelines of XP. Say welcome. Change. It's one of the Agile manifesto. There are 4 values. One of the values, change as per the situation as compared to the plan-driven methodology. So if you want speed with change, Agile is the best methodologies. Agile methodologies are the best methodologies. Then, what else is changing? Budget. Change. Like you have planned budget, planned schedule, schedule change. React quickly. Change. Like Sirat-e-Mustaqim and Shaitan Path. Planned budget, actual budget. Planned schedule, actual schedule. So try to estimate the velocity after each release. Like you are late, you promise to the customer that we will deliver you after every 2 weeks. Like the case of Descon Infosys, have contract with the customer that we will deliver one release after every 2 weeks, one working version. And your second release is late. Instead of 2 weeks, you took 3 weeks. Third release is also late. So that means you are late for 2 weeks. So you have estimated the velocity and you take corrective action, and instead of the fourth release, instead of 2 weeks, you deliver in 1.5 weeks to bridge the gap. Then fifth week, again 1.5 to bridge the gap. In this way, you keep on taking the corrective actions, rectify your mistake, and bridge the gap between planned budget, planned schedule, actual schedule. Then any other change on which team has to react? Abdullah Khalid. Technology. as we just discussed, technology change yourself. Otherwise, customer will force you to change. Like Visual Studio to Visual Studio.net, or the case of Descon, Infosys. American client realestate.com asked them to change the business logic from C# to Java Versata. And the company doesn't have single Java programmer. And there was deadline of 2 weeks to deliver one working version, and it was contract, under the contract. So company has to outsource it to deal with this problem. And meanwhile, company hired Java programmers and start training of Java Versata. So you have to change, otherwise customer will force you to change, then you don't have time. So you keep on training your team members for the new tools, new technologies. So then we have team resources, team member left. In Agile, the ideal team size is, in some books, 3 to 5 members in a team, in one team. In some books, some professionals said 5 to 7 members. But some companies like Yahoo, they have 10 to 20 members even in one team for large project. The customized version of Agile, tailored methodology. Now you have 3 to 5 or 5 to 7 members for small project and 10 to 20 for large. If you have 1 member or 2 members left, you don't have time to start the hiring cycle. So you should have cross-functional team. Self-organized team, like tester left. So programmer can work as a tester, or database designer can work as a tester, or database designer left. Tester can work as a database designer, or programmer can work as a database designer or an architect. Multi-skilled, you can swap the roles. Self-organized teams. So requirement change, budget change, resources change, schedule change, technology change. Then you will be successful. Adapt yourself according to the situation. That is the best. Any question up to here? Any question up to here? Now I move to, as per one of the software engineer, senior professional, no matter where you are in the system life cycle, system will change, and the desire to change, it will persist throughout the life cycle. So there is continuously, you have to change to be successful, otherwise your project will fail. So you have to adapt, whether it's a small project, whether it's a medium project, or it's a large project, doesn't matter. System will change and you have to change yourself, otherwise it will collapse. Okay, I think it's enough for today session. Before the Juma pray, we'll join inshallah 1:30 inshallah. Any question up to here? Thank you very much.